What is going on, baseball fans? Welcome to an off-season edition of This Week in Baseball, most likely a This Month in Baseball, perhaps presented by Diamond Digest. I'm your host, Jroy Lazowski. We've got a great crew on with you tonight. Kristian Lloyd, Jroy, Jonathan Roy, and, well, I did say great crew, and then also Scott Bentley.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Awesome.
Doing all right, Laz. Doing all right.
I always forget how good our intro video is, man.
I know.
It's pretty solid.
Peyton did a great job with that.
Slaps. Yeah, incredible.
It's pretty good.
So Peyton, as always, has done a good job with that, and I don't know. I think we'll have to get one for Diego next season because he hosted just as many of these as I did. So yeah,
I don't like the shock value of host and you in a suit and then Diego like with his beard and hat. It's like
a stark contrast would be good.
Jordan, have you ever busted out a suit for a Sox Math video?
Have I? No, I don't think so.
No. It's a good idea.
I was going to say that would be the next round of territory. So
packing up
ideas early on. So add on to it later. But otherwise, we got some great content for you. We got some off-season talk in terms of some of the signings that have gone on. Some, not many, but I mean, we'll probably get into this, but more than probably expected, especially even on the rumor front as well. We're going to talk a little bit about the awards. We're going to let Jroy have his love fest with Bryce Harper, and then we're going to move quickly on from that point. We're going to talk about the market in general a little bit, and from there, honestly, we're going to see where it goes throughout the night because we're just here to talk baseball with you and catch you up and see where we might be going. As the lockout looms, you'll be listening to this November 22nd, so what is it, about 9-10 days away or so on December 1st would be the last day of proposed baseball under the current collective bargaining agreement. Rob Manfred recently said, quote, an off-season lockout that moves the process forward is different than a labor dispute that cost games. So guess what? Don't get any high hopes for December 1st. From the MLB side, it appears as if this is going to be a lockout situation. But because of that, we've seen the market move a little bit, which is nice, and we'll get to it. But we want to get to the awards first. We'll talk about the three main ones, the NL MVP, or excuse me, the MVP for both the AL and the NL, Cy Young, and Rookie of the Year awards. So in the NL, I guess we'll start and just get it out of the way. NL MVP, Bryce Harper beats Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis Jr. among the top three candidates. Go ahead, Jroy, give your thoughts.
Yeah, so this is a big deal. This is a big deal, okay? Because Bryce is in territory now. Not a lot of other people are. Think about it. In the last 20 years, who has won multiple MVPs? Okay, Bonds has. Okay, A-Rod has, sure. Pujols has. And Trout, right? I think those are the only
Miguel Cabrera, thank you.
Well, if we want to count
Deserved
him, sure.
MVPs. But.
Yeah, if we want to, yeah. Okay.
Never
talk
about the one. Never thought of it.
Yeah, if we're talking about deserve, okay, yeah. So those are all first ballot Hall of Famers. I mean, Bryce is in crazy territory. He won a very well deserved MVP. Put up nearly 7 WAR in 140 games. Led the league in WRC plus, in OPS, in slugging. Just a monster season from him. I think that I'm really glad the way people view Bryce is going to shift a lot, and I'm looking forward to Bryce getting overrated again. Like I'm looking forward to it. Like I'm all the Bryce propaganda is going to get put through by and stuff, and I'm going to be so here for it because we haven't seen this in a while. People are starting to come back around on him, and I think it'll start to get annoying again, like it did back in 2016 when he went unanimous. In 2015, but this is great. I'm so happy. I've been predicting a Bryce MVP season for the third season now probably,
Fourth.
And third time's a charm. Third time's a charm. It finally happened. I gotta be honest. I think he should probably be the favorite for it again next year. It'll be him and Soto right there at the top. And I mean, Bryce is a fantastic player. I think that he's working his way back into that elite most tier. as far as players in the National League go, like it's him, Soto, and Acuna. Like, I mean, who else? And I guess DeGrom if you want to count pitchers. And I'm just so excited for what this does for his legacy in a career sense. Like, when we're talking 15 years from now about his Hall of Fame candidacy, like I think he's really got a good shot of going in on the first ballot if he can string together a few more quality seasons at the end of his career here. I mean, he's what, Bryce is 29, right? Or 28? Yeah, I think 29. He's still so young. He could play 10 more years. He could put up 5 WAR a season for the next 8, or something. Who knows?
Is there any doubt that he, at this point, I mean, it would be really hard to think that he isn't just a shoe-in for the Hall at this point.
Yeah, I would probably say that. I think I have his Fangraphs pulled up right.
It would take a heck of a collapse.
Yeah.
He's at 43.3 F4 right now. You'd have to think if he, man, I mean, he's got at least 8 years left playing wise. I mean, at least.
That's it.
If he's even a 4-win player for the next 5 years, that's 20 more. He's up over 60. It'd be hard, especially with the awards, especially with the World Series ring the Phillies will have in a couple years here.
Oh dear God!
Especially considering the fact that 2015 is probably the greatest season of all time. Like, there's just a lot. There's a lot we have to talk about here. Okay, I had to just get that out there. This is my moment. I'm going to take it. Yeah, I'm so happy for Bryce. Legitimately, I'm so happy.
Do you get like a cut of any money he gets from his award?
I might reach out to his old agent and see what we can make.
Might be worth a shot with that. But I do think at the end of the day he was the most worthy. I think it's something that, given for as much crap as I give you,
mm-hmm.
the whole idea that he has been not underrated but undervalued, I'd prefer in terms of sort of the production he puts up to get recognized. And I think it's kind of a larger point in general, which honestly we'll probably get to more in some of the other awards. But it speaks to the larger point of you're starting to see a little bit of a shift in the methodology for how voters vote and what voters value. It's not perfect, but because of some of the other awards, I think we're seeing that. So,
yeah, I'd say it's absolutely getting better. I still don't know if it's very consistent, giving some of the results we saw. I think that whether it was like the Wheeler Burns race, which was super close. We had some people valuing things more, some people valuing like the historically low FIP that Burns threw out there, whether it was Brandon Crawford getting first. Well, that's a separate issue, I guess. But yeah.
Let's jump. Oh, go ahead, Kristian.
Do you think Bryce Harper has lived up to the 16-year-old status he was given?
So yeah, this is. I think so. I mean, I think if you win if you're a 2-time MVP, you're on track to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, most likely. And I think after 2015, people would have definitely said yes. He won the Rookie of the Year. I remember he that was 2012. I think his rookie season was.
Yeah,
he's done pretty much everything he has to. I think that it's always going to feel like a little bit underwhelming no matter what you do, honestly. Like if you have that much hype coming into the league, I know that's something that we've talked about a lot the last like 10 years, basically with LeBron, like just the way people talked about him. Like, but obviously Bryce has not had the same career that LeBron has, but still, I think that I don't know how you can look at what he's accomplished and be like, yeah, like this was like an underperformance for his career. Like he has a career 142 W plus, like that's unreal production. I think that over 40 F4 through and he's not even 30 yet. I think he has.
Yeah, with him and like Steven Strasburg, I would say he has definitely fulfilled himself a lot more. Whereas Strasburg it's underwhelming because of all the injuries. And Harper was injured 16, 17, but he has been that top guy, and he's won those awards.
No, yeah, absolutely. I agree with the Strasburg thing. And the Strasburg thing's kind of sad because, like, if we assume a perfectly healthy Strasburg, he's having a better career than Bryce is, for sure. Like Strasburg, I think Strasburg is was on track to be a better pitcher. And I mean, I can go pull up Strasburg's numbers right now, but Strasburg's had a sneaky, really good career. Just
absolutely. It's just every time he gets going, then an injury happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait a couple of months, and it's just...
Yeah, he's got a career 3.21 ERA, 36.6 career F4. Like, I mean, he's still been a super productive pitcher. Yeah, but no, I completely agree with you. The injuries have just completely derailed him, and but that's an interesting comparison just because Bryce and Strasburg came up in the same way. They had the same hype pretty much, and it's gone slightly differently,
Yeah, I think that's the danger always of hyping up players so much. And I actually, not to switch topics to a completely different team, but that's something I talked about recently with some of the White Sox and Yohan Moncada, who has become one of the most polarizing baseball players among Sox fans. And it's the same kind of concept of, this guy was considered the top prospect from the International League or the international leagues. And it was all, he's number one. He's this physical phenom specimen, and it's like, what is that supposed to mean? Like where do you draw the line of, it's the player's fault for not reaching his potential versus it's, the scout's fault for overselling these? Like, I don't, it's for someone like Harper and the amount of, what's the word I'm looking for the amount of like hype that came around him, he could have had a career where it was like, let's just say 130 WRC plus instead of 142. Like, that's a really good career. Maybe not Hall of Fame, but we're at least having conversations about how good he is. And then you have people like, that's where more of the overrated stuff comes from. It's like, why was it over? Like, if this is his talent, like, that's a really good ball player. Like, why are you getting mad at the player for not living up to expectations somebody else set for him? Like, that's not fair. That's never going to be fair. It's one thing to be a complete bust and it just doesn't work out. It's another thing to be a really good ball player and just not be what the scouts said you were going to be and still get blamed for it. So it's kind of along those same lines. It's very hard for us to sit here and say Harper lived up to it and for him still to have done it. Because the amount of pressure on him to do that was astronomical.
Yeah. I think that Bryce is also a little bit unique in that when he was coming up, I think he had I don't think he was super likable. Like, I think he had a reputation. Yeah.
You remember that
his first
thing in the minors?
When he blew the kiss at the pitcher, is that thing?
Yeah. Hit the homer, blew the kiss, then blew the kiss around third, and then like a big like brawl break, and like everybody's like, oh, when he gets to the majors, like he's gonna be like put in check or whatever. And then like obviously the whole Strickland thing when he was younger, like like young Bryce was a bull, man. Like like he was about it.
No, I agree. I think that changes perception a little bit because like when Strasburg made his debut, that was like a national event, and like everyone wanted that dude to succeed. Like everyone wanted Strasburg to go out there and strike out 10 Pirates. I think he made his debut against the Pirates. Everyone wanted him to go out there and succeed. With Bryce, it was a little bit different. And like I remember that Rookie of the Year race really well actually because he was like he had an okay rookie season. Like it was fine. And like I remember thinking that Wade Miley should have won that award. Retroactively, I'm not sure if that's the case at all. Like I'm not sure if that the statistics would back that up. But I remember I think 12-year-old me thinking Wade Miley should have won the award, and Bryce won it. And I remember thinking like, oh, Bryce wasn't even that good this year. Like he was fine, but like but I mean he still. So like I remember I wasn't like a Bryce stan back then. I didn't hate him, but like I wasn't a Bryce stan. I think a lot of people back then were just kind of like, hey, like we'll see how it goes with this guy because it's not completely unlike Machado. I think because like Machado has a lot of haters. I feel like kind of the same way that Bryce does, but
I feel like he's deserved a little more. I mean, like Bryce Harper's first at bat was against Cole Hamels, right, where he got plunked immediately. Like that was his first thing off rip.
Oh, okay. I remember that. Maybe I don't remember if that was was that his first plate appearance ever?
I'm almost positive that was his first ever plate appearance, and that was his welcome to the show because no one liked him coming up. No one was rooting for that kid, and he's proved everyone wrong in my eyes. And I love him for that.
I agree.
Yeah, he's a polarizing player, and he remains one. But you can't argue with what he's put up, and I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. So, Jroy, I'm glad you got your moment in the spotlight.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
Let's just shift the spotlight to somebody else on this podcast. AL MVP, Shohei Ohtani beats out Vlad Guerrero and Marcus Semien amongst the top three. Kristian, obviously you think he's deserving. Obviously he is more than deserving. I'm going to pose it to you this way, though, because it's kind of goes with my personal opinion on this. What would Shohei Ohtani not have to do to not win this award or be in the top three every single season so long as he plays?
Good question.
If he's playing at this rate right now, like if he replicates 2021, he deserves to be in the top three every year. And people are like mad at that, but like no, it's genuinely he deserves to be up there if he replicates this season. He set the bar so high for himself that anything lower might not get him top 10 MVP voting. It's like one of the 5 most impressive seasons of all time. The first 4 being Barry Bonds and Shohei Ohtani right there. And if he replicates this, he deserves to be there every single season. I can't imagine like why anyone would not want that. I mean, it's a 150 WRC plus and a 150 ERA plus. It's 45 home runs, 26 stolen bases or something. It's ridiculous. The stats.
We've been watching it now. Like it doesn't get old. Like it's like just hearing like 150 on both ends for as far as like the plus category, the weighted like plus categories go on offense and pitching. And he's 50% above league average in both. Like that will never get old to me. Like hearing that out loud will never. The shock value of that will never go away.
Yeah, Kristian, you said so you said that if he replicates this every year, he should be top 3, and I completely agree with that. But that's pretty different from winning the award unanimously, though. You know, so like
voter fatigue.
Okay,
voter fatigue is one thing. I think if Mike Trout replicates his 2018 season or his 2012 season, in which he was much better than Miguel Cabrera, and his 2013 season, in which he was much better than Miguel Cabrera, I would have voted Mike Trout over Shohei Ohtani. Just like statistically, it's like 190 WRC plus, and he was worth 10 WAR. Ohtani was only worth 9.2 F4 or RVAR and 8.2 F4. And so it wasn't like statistically, it wasn't that much more valuable than everyone else. Granted, I think WAR might undersell him just a little bit because it is just egregious how 150, and he's being 2 players in one spot. The value there is kind of being understated, but I don't think he is necessarily out of the reach of the elite players, but he's just an elite player.
Mm-hmm. Is the value undersold there because of like how many pitching appearances he has versus like people who go out there and start 30 to 35 a year? Like why is that? I don't know. Like I've always wondered like why is that WAR not like 5 wins higher? Like
the positional adjustment at DH or something?
Positional adjustment at DH really did hurt him a lot. I could see him going to the outfield a little bit more, but I'm not sure how much it would help him.
Jroy loves positional adjustment.
I love to talk about position. Saying that I love positional adjustment is not quite accurate.
I just made a tweet today about positional adjustments. I was looking at Jared Walsh and Bo Bichette's stats, and Jared Walsh had a 127 WRC plus and a +1 UZR and a -1 base running runs, while Bichette had a 122 WRC plus, -5 UZR, and 6 base running runs. Bo Bichette was worth 4.9 F4 this season, and Jared Walsh is worth 2.7. It's just such a stark difference, and it is really egregious. And Jroy of all people has shifted my mind on this perspective.
Oh yeah, I just think it's funny that like we all love Warren because like War is great and all, but like War is still so janky, man. Like I really hope that really hope that like 10 years from now we really fix some of like the weird statistical like because Kristian, I remember we were talking about this a few weeks ago. You said that like Correa and Altuve had like really similar WARs, even though Correa was like way better defensively, wasn't it? I don't remember what the exact combo there was, but like Altuve had been like mediocre at second, and then Correa's Correa, and but they had really similar WARs for some reason. I don't know. Like I guess the second base positional WARs adjustment is going crazy right now, or I don't know.
I don't know if it was Correa necessarily, but yeah, Altuve's WAR in comparison to many other positions, like he would not be there. I was just talking today because of Carlos Correa and Derek Jeter about defensive positioning, and if you had Derek Jeter play all of his games at left field instead of shortstop and kept the same exact defensive run saved, he would be worth 20 less WAR. So he would be a 50 WAR player in that career, and still a great career, great hitter, this and that, still a Hall of Famer. Regardless, but 20 less WAR if he just moved one position, or if he just wasn't.
That's why
same DRS at that position though, like same like defensive number,
same defensive run saved, just at a different position.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Like people don't want to hear it, but like man, like if you do Ryan Howard out there at shortstop, man,
man, we almost got through it.
Just let him stand there, man. Just let him stand there and tell me he wouldn't be a 50-win player. Tell me he wouldn't be a 50-win player.
Bro, he has like what 14 career WARs.
How does it make any kind of sense that by virtue of just by playing first base, you can be like a league average first baseman, and your defense, your positional adjustment will bring your WAR down because for some reason, how does that make sense that you are helping let's say you're slightly above average at first, you're helping your team because you're a slightly above league average first baseman, and oh wow, like your WAR is going to get is going to go down because of the positional adjustment. How does that make any sense? How does that make any sense?
I've gotten you there. It's when you start talking about Ryan Howard that I lose you. I've got you there. I agree.
My biggest gripe is that I feel like bad defensive shortstops get boosted a little too much, and you're playing one of the most pivotal defensive positions. If you are bad at shortstop, you are hurting the entire infield. But your personal value is still going up regardless. That part doesn't sit right with me. It's the same with catchers and center fielders, where sometimes like negative defensive run saved, FRM, or UZR, and they're still just much more valuable. That makes sense to me.
Exactly. I think it's like there's a certain nuance there, and like in terms of like there's like a multiplier almost. Like if you're like a shortstop, like it's more volatile, because like if you're really good, then you are such an asset to your team. But if you're really bad, like your entire infield defense is going to suffer from it. Your pitchers' ERAs are going to look worse. Like your team is going to lose more games. Like it's crazy. I think it's but like but at first base, like it doesn't matter as much, and that's why the positional adjustments look the way they do. I just think they're way too stark. Like the difference is way too crazy. Like I think even between what has the second best positional adjustment after short? Is it center or is it like third?
I believe center.
Yeah.
Center. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah,
Kristian and I had this conversation in the last off season about how like positional adjustment is fine, and like I understand the premise of it, but if you are horrible at shortstop, you should get punished more, not like less for some reason. Like you should, your WAR should take more of a hit because you are being bad at such a premier position, not you suck, but you're at a premier position, so you get let off the hook kind of a thing because that's a tougher position. Like it should be the opposite. If you're great at it, that's fine. Add all the, you deserve that. If you have a 20 DRS defensive season or whatever, like Correa had, like you deserve the extra like cushion in there for positional adjustments. But if you have a negative 20, you should be hurt more because you did that at such an important position.
Yeah. And I think that's I think that's important in
only with you.
I think realizing that is important in like if we're talking about like MVP award, for like one season, I think that like kind of shows you like WAR might not be like the number one like metric we need to look at there. Like maybe OBP, maybe WRC plus, maybe that kind of stuff is like what we need to look at. I think over the course of a career, it evens out a little bit more. But then even when you're thinking about something like what Kristian said about Jeter being a 50-win player if he had played left, like how does that make any logical sense? Like how does that like it doesn't. Jeter actively hurt the Yankees like by being bad at short. Sure. He helped them a lot by being a great offensive player, but I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. It's almost like with weighted runs created plus. Like I use that stat all the time. We all do. But if weighted runs created plus treats all road parks as like neutral, that doesn't make any sense either. And if we properly adjusted for that, it'd be hard to do. But I think Prospectus does that with DRC plus, don't they? Yeah. And so if WRC plus adjusted for that, we might see things might look way different. Like those Coors players, like they might their numbers might look way different. No telling who else's offensive metrics would look way different. It's just I think it's funny that we love these stats so much and for good reason, but like there's still so much work to do in terms of like getting them right.
Yeah. And to be fair, the reason I asked that original Ohtani question is kind of along these lines, but also the fact that, he's one player. You're basically using two roster spots, but only having one player do it. So it's like that should be, in theory, like infinitely more valuable than some of the players you can run out there. That's why it's my personal opinion that as long as he's putting up at least pretty solid numbers, like you deserve to be top 3 every season. Are you going to win it every year? Probably not. But I mean, even when you factor, even as you guys are talking about some of the positional adjustment aspects to it, even stuff like that, it's like he's still one guy filling 2 roster spots, but doing it as one player. Like that should be viewed as infinitely more valuable.
Would you vote him for MVP if he put up a 135 WRC plus and a 135 ERA plus this season?
I would.
Or you would?
I still would.
I would have a hard time that as long as he's well above average on both sides of the ball, that there's nobody who's more valuable than that.
Oh, okay.
Because you're playing 2 positions as one player.
Okay, but that is kind of a significant difference if we're saying he's 15% worse at hitting and 15% worse at pitching.
But he's still 35% better than everybody else on both sides of the ball.
Will that outweigh like someone like, let's say, Vlad Jr. being 70% better at hitting than anyone else and being like I don't know what Vlad's defensive numbers look like this year, but I think they were probably like around league average. Or maybe below. Okay.
First base anyway.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think that it would I would probably want to look at the WAR numbers there, see how his value would turn out. Like, I think Ohtani was the no-brainer. I think also that the novelty of Ohtani being this is like his first like season in his full form, that matters. We want to say that doesn't matter, but like if we look back at baseball historically, like it would have been moronic for us to not give Ohtani the MVP this year, even if statistically you could make a case for someone else. Like this was a landmark season in baseball history, and so but like I can see the case if he had gone like 135, like still giving it to him, assuming he would have been like around a 7.5-ish win player. But like if Ohtani goes out there and does 135 next year and we see a 9-win Mike Trout season, I'm not even thinking twice. I'm voting for Trout. Like I don't, or if we see like a Vlad Jr. revenge tour and he goes 200 WRC plus or something, like I'm voting for like, I love Ohtani and like I'm so glad he won this award. It's great for the game, but like I'm not married to the idea of him being the MVP every year. Like I think
I'm pretty married to the idea that it should at least be an argument that he should be top 3 if he stays at a
by virtue of him being this unicorn player.
Yes,
he will be in the conversation every year he's healthy, and that's
I'm pretty married to that idea.
Okay, that's perfectly reasonable. But if he's not he's not automatically winning it every year. Like
Sure.
he might run off 5 straight seasons where he deserves it every year. That could happen. I think I might get a little annoyed with that, but like that could happen.
Oh yeah, until it's Bryce Harper who does it.
For you, Jroy. I know you will.
I need to see at least one.
Listen,
I want to see at least one Jurickson Pro 4 MVP season before he turns out. So
all right, so Cy Young's, huh?
Yeah, let's move on to the Cy Youngs. I mean, looking at all the other awards themselves, I think both the NL Cy Young. I mean, let's look at it like this: NL Cy Young, Burns beats out Wheeler barely. AL Cy Young, Robbie Ray pretty much takes away with it. I don't think anyone had much debate there. Jonathan India takes it away as the NL Rookie of the Year. I think that was a little closer.
I think Trevor Rogers got snubbed on that.
Yeah, I think we ended up as a page voting Trevor Rogers.
Yeah, I think that's one where I mean, I voted Rogers. I think he deserved to win, but at the same time, it wasn't some like all time I'm not losing sleep over India winning it. Like that's it was close to like it. It's not some all time robbery. Like whatever.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's not a Miggy over Trout type of thing. Yeah. It was really close.
Can't get through any award without it.
And then for the last one, the AL Rookie there, Randy Arozarena beats out Wander Franco and Luis Garcia. I think the 3 awards there that they're not necessarily, like you guys are saying, they're not necessarily snubs or all-time like huge debates, but Arozarena winning over Franco, India winning over Rogers, and Burns winning over Wheeler all kind of have the same underlying argument to it. And that's how much does being on the field for the length of time really matter? Because Franco only came up in June. Trevor Rogers missed the entire month of August, being on the bereavement list. And Corbin Burns pitched about 40 innings less than Wheeler did. So it all 3 of these kind of underline that same argument of does being on the field matter? And in some cases, they said, yes, it did. With Arozarena over Franco and India over Rogers, yes, it did. With Burns over Wheeler, they said, well, maybe not really. I guess I'll start with the Cy Young, NL Cy Young, and it'll kind of probably bleed over into these next 2, is just your thoughts on how some of these more toss-up type campaigns ended up falling.
So I voted for Corbin Burns. He had the second lowest FIP since dead ball history. Like since the dead ball period ended, he has the second lowest FIP behind Pedro Martinez, and it's just egregious. That's hilarious, hysterical. 169 FIP is unheard of, and I think his over Wheeler, I'm okay with. I understand the arguments for Wheeler. There's been many debates on Twitter from this, and if Zach Wheeler, if Burns pitched to a 4.41 ERA for the next 40 innings, he would have matched Zach Wheeler's ERA. So do those innings matter of a 4.41 ERA? Does that differentiate the 2? Because I'm not sure if it does for me. With Rogers and India, I'm not like too concerned about that one. And Franco Arozarena, I was really surprised with the Arozarena winning, to be honest. Because the novelty of the postseason last year and everything in the regular season of last year, he was insane. And personally, I didn't think he was like as good as he was. And 129 WRC plus is good, no doubt about it. But I wasn't hearing nearly as much about him as you did last season. I did not see they weren't promoting him like that Rookie of the Year or anything. So I was really shocked to see him winning, and because Franco broke the on base record for rookies. Like that,
what was it? Do you know?
Or
what did he have?
Want to say it was somewhere in the 40s.
His on base percentage was Wander Franco's on base percentage 347.
Okay, so the on-base streak of games making on base safely, he tied Frank Robinson at 43 games. which is just insane.
I mean, for him to put up the numbers he did at the age of 20 through a couple months less than everybody else is phenomenal. And I'm sure that this won't be the last time his name is up for a major award. This will be a long time coming for him. And I think what you mentioned about the Burns Wheeler, it's the exact crux of the argument for me. It's did 40 innings of a +4 ERA really make a difference that much in your minds to where some of the debate fell? I don't, if let's just say Wheeler pitched like a 2.3 ERA over those 4, like, yeah, I'm probably going to agree with you that it's more of a snub. But I look at like the things that Jeff Passan wrote, and he was like, the greatest trick the nerds ever pulled was convincing people innings don't matter. Number one, nobody said that. It was the quality of the innings. There's quantity of innings. Yeah, quantity maybe doesn't matter as much. It's the quality of them as well. If you throw 40 extra innings and it's the same as throwing Dallas Keuchel out there, well, that's not necessarily great. But if it's
you did say Keuchel, man.
First name that came to mind. It's I can't call it PTSD because I'm going to see it in 2022. But
who's going to tell him that Keuchel was worse than that?
I know he was. The first name that came to mind with a bad ERA, Scott. All right, maybe I'll pick whatever. But my point being, like, innings do matter. Like, no one's ever said that. Like, stop making arguments that people haven't made. Just stop. It's so aggravating. Like, if something doesn't go how you wanted it to, the nerds screwed it up. If you like it, old school baseball overcame the nerds. Like, I hate it. I really hate it. I'll stop talking. I'll get everyone else's thoughts on this.
Yeah. So, Zach Wheeler throws for my baseball team, and Wheeler was phenomenal this year. Wheeler was so good. I think that I was so emotionally invested in NL MVP that, like, all the other awards, I was kind of just like, oh yeah, like, here are these other awards. But I will say, so just based on like what I saw personally, I remember about 2/3 ish of the way through the season, it felt like it was a 3-person race between Burns, Wheeler, and Scherzer, I'd say. I think Wheeler was kind of number one at that point. Like, I would have voted for Wheeler at that point. And then as the season finished, Wheeler was like slightly worse. Like, his pitching dipped a little bit. I don't even know if that's statistically accurate. I just remember like seeing him going out there, like he had a few rough starts, and Burns just kept being amazing, and Scherzer kept being really, really good too. So mentally in my head, I just assumed that I thought Burns would run away with this award. I don't know. I did not think it would be nearly this close. I never would have guessed that Wheeler would have gotten as many first place votes as Burns did. And I think that's just because I didn't really look enough into the numbers. I think it's super interesting. Burns led the league in F4, and obviously I think that was not super surprising considering all F4 cares about is FIP, and he had a historically low FIP. His R.
The computer finally said, "I'm done hearing about Jroy talk about the Phils."
Like a 7.
What a great phrase.
Say it again.
You just got frozen.
You just got frozen at a perfect time.
Okay. I'll keep talking. So I mean, obviously, like, that's the difference between R-WAR and F4, RA9 and FIP. I just think it's interesting. Personally, I prefer pitchers or just players in general that are better in whatever time period they play in than someone who's slightly worse over a longer time period. So I think like I would have slightly gone with Burns over Wheeler. But now this is the thing that's really interesting is if it is entirely possible that if the Philadelphia Phillies have a different manager, we are talking about a completely different race here. Because imagine if Kevin Cash was coaching the Phillies and Wheeler gets through 5 innings and he had throwing 1-run 4-hit ball And Cash is like, all right, like we're taking him out. We gotta, we'll ride with our pen. Obviously the Phillies don't have a good bullpen. That's part of the reason why Wheeler had to take on a little bit more of a workload than otherwise. But that's a consideration too. It's like, okay,
Wheeler got dragged out quite a few times.
Exactly. No,
he got screwed quite a few times.
It happened with Wheeler, and it happened with Nola too. Like Nola's numbers look way worse this season than they possibly could, assuming the Phillies had a better bullpen and they had a more competent manager who would have been like, yeah, we're not going to run you out there the fourth time through the order in the eighth inning. That's a consideration. Wheeler's numbers, he would probably have less innings thrown, and that FIP would probably look better. That ERA would probably look better. He might have struck out, things would look very different. And I think that he probably would have won the award considering how close it was. I think that the thing that made me want it for Burns more than anything was the fact that he had historically low FIP. Like we were talking about like a ridiculously low FIP, like a crazy, and I don't even like FIP. Like I don't even really like FIP that much, but like we're talking about like a season that's like never been replicated since like 2000 Pedro, something crazy like that. So I think I was always going to vote for Burns number one. I'm kind of annoyed that in our DD ballot, I voted for Scherzer at number 2. I think if I could do that again, I'd probably put Wheeler there at number 2. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Kristian's point is the best for the argument of if someone goes out there and pitches 80 innings, like that's a lot different than you know what I mean. Like he still pitched what is considered to be a full season, and I mean I think the difference in those innings pitched numbers being that high of an ERA, you're like, okay, like especially based on. Then you would use stats like FIP to tell you that he would not have posted that high of an ERA in that innings difference or even relatively close to that. So that one didn't really that was a non-factor in my head. Like that had absolutely no effect in my. I was honestly to the point where when Passan started tweeting about it, I was surprised that like it had the response it did. I was that was not even something I considered. I did not even for a second be like, oh well, Wheeler has more innings, so like this, people are going to be mad or whatever. That is something that was not even on my radar until after the award was announced and people started tweeting about it. I didn't even realize that it was a big deal. And then, I mean, like Wander then to the other extreme, right? Like he played incredible, but he did have far less games. So like that's a whole different debate. And I think if you're talking about, I don't know, like I go back and forth on it a lot. I voted Randy. I thought Randy should have won, but I mean, like, how many more games do you think Wander needed to play at the production he was matching for that to get flipped to his award? You know what I mean? Like, how what is the cutoff? Right, exactly. What is the hypothetical cutoff of like, oh, that's not enough games versus like, oh, that's plenty. Like, we know what you are, kind of a thing.
What was the WAR breakdown between them? Like, what do we know what that? Like, I don't.
3.3 F4 to Arozarena, 2.5 to Franco.
Okay. Yeah, Scott. One thing I'm reminded of is like obviously it's not even the same sport. But like a few years ago when the NBA Rookie of the Year race between Embiid and Malcolm Brogdon.
Oh yeah,
that was a very similar because like Embiid did not play a lot of games, but he was fantastic. He was clearly the best rookie, like not even a close. But Malcolm Brogdon played like 80 games or something. And he was also really good. And I remember feeling super strong with it should be Embiid because part of the reason was because like I thought Embiid would be an all-time great player down the road. And so like historically looking back, we want like it would be better for the game if he had won this. And I think I think I would probably invoke a little bit of that same thing for Wander. Like I think that if we had to guess who's going to have a better career, Wander or Randy, I think we'd probably all go with Wander. And so I think that you can kind of I don't know. I don't know if that's like a faulty criteria for thinking why you might want to retroactively vote for someone. I think it's the same reason why I think, like, in hindsight, Bryce Harper winning the Rookie of the Year over Wade Miley was a good call, But I don't know. That's just something I think about also.
For sure. No, it's a great comp. Yeah, I totally forgot that happened, but yeah, and then with like that situation, then you have like you have players that in across all sports it happens, but Randy was up for half of a shortened season last year. You know what I mean? Like and granted, if it was a full 162 and he was up for half, it might be a little different, but it's hard to kind of wrap your head around the fact that somebody can get Rookie of the Year votes 2 years in a row. Like that's objectively kind of weird. And if in my eyes, if your sample size is big enough to where this is your gonna be only rookie year, then games played should probably be null. Should probably not be a factor in the voting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
No, I think that's fair. I know it is a larger discussion there because, like I said, for some it mattered a little bit more, and for some awards it didn't. So, but I think the good news is that we don't feel like we had a huge snub this year. And as we kind of wrap this up and start thinking about some of the signings that have gone on, I want this to be the first and only nice thing I say to Scott and related to his team in this episode. I probably would have had AJ Hinch top 3 manager of the year. I know it really doesn't matter. I know we don't view it too strongly. That being said, to take that roster and do what they did, and I've gotten in arguments about it. I'm like, sure, they didn't go above 500, but he took a really bad roster and maximized their potential. And their potential was probably only 77 games, but he maximized it, and that deserved, in my mind, at least a top 3 finish. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously preaching the choir here, but this was a roster that was on pace to lose 95 or 98 last season, and obviously lost 114 games in 2019, and did not have too many signings and improvements from those rosters. It was essentially a very, very similar team, sans the 3 pitchers coming up, and. Yeah, I mean, we had a chance. We still could have finished 500 with I want to say like 7 or 8 games left, and it had a winning record for every single month except for April. I mean, like the biggest thing for me was he did, and I know that this has something to do with what the front office allows a manager to control, but like no manager in baseball did more for as far as like the entire operations of the organization than AJ Hinch did for the Detroit Tigers. He came in, redid the entire MLB coaching staff, redid the coaching staff of every single team at every level of the minors, hired and fired scouts. I mean, like this is our manager, and he is doing significantly more than our general manager on an operations day-to-day basis. Completely revamped the analytics department by himself. I mean, nobody. And again, we're talking about a team that didn't finish 500, so I get it. Like this is not something that I'm like, oh, it's ridiculous if you didn't vote for him for manager of the year. Like that's everybody has a very legitimate gripe to not vote him, but like not a single person, not a single coach, I would argue, in the entire sport did more on a day-to-day basis for the entire organization than Hinch did for the Tigers.
And as a result, the Tigers are making some noise early in this offseason. As we start to shift to what has happened so far in the offseason, it's been a lot of pitcher signing. It started with Angels great Andrew Heaney on his way to Los Angeles, the Dodgers, that is this time, on a 1-year, $8.5 million deal. So he's going to pitch like the front of the line starter Kristian always hoped he would become, because that's what the Dodgers do. The other three big signings, Eduardo Rodriguez followed shortly after that one with a 5-year, $77 million contract with Detroit, shoring up that rotation a little bit with some veteran presence. Noah Syndergaard, a 1-year, $21 million deal with the Los Angeles Angels, starting to really solidify that rotation. And then Justin Verlander, a 2-year, $50 million deal. It's technically 1 year with an option at the age of 39 next year with the Houston Astros. I guess we can go in whatever order we want. I mean, Heaney went first, then Rodriguez, Syndergaard, and Verlander. Those are the big main ones. Some other smaller signings. Manny Pena, who was someone I wanted for the White Sox, goes to the Braves. 2 years, $8 million. Jose Quintana just signed with the Pirates today for $2 million. And Pedro Severino signed with the Brewers as their newest backup catcher is the assumption there. But I think the big thing really is the pitchers market has moved decently quickly. It's rather expensive in totality.
Yes.
I mean, two of you here have big names who have signed with your teams, and I guess speak to what the signing does for your team and kind of how it has helped set the market, I guess.
Kristian, you can. You're chomping at the bit for no. I'll lob you the first one.
All right. So firstly, with Andrew Heaney, we've been, as an Angels community, we've been saying he's gonna go to the fucking Dodgers for years now and be great. They're gonna fix his pitch tunneling. His curveball. He's gonna be amazing over there. But with Noah Syndergaard, I wasn't worried. I was really happy waking up to that news. I've woken up to many great Angels news, thankfully. I was really happy about it. The high AAV kind of concerned me at first with $21 million. That Verlander signed the next day, and my scaredness, my fear of that contract instantly dissipated because Verlander, 39, also missed the last 2 years from Tommy John. That made me feel so much better about myself. Noah Syndergaard is a really good start to this team. It's best pitcher we've had signed in quite some time. I mean, if you talk about multi-year contracts, not including Ohtani because that's kind of different. The last multi-year contract we signed to an Angels pitcher was C.J. Wilson in 2012.
The GOAT.
I've graduated middle school, high school, got my associates in kinesiology, and dropped out of college 3 times after that since we signed a pitcher to a multi-year deal. It's the craziest thing to me. So not being a multi-year deal for Syndergaard was kind of upsetting, but I understand on his part and on our part, we're taking a risk with him. I'm really excited about that contract. I know Jroy wants to talk about that. He wasn't all that good or whatever. He hasn't been good in a while. He was in 2015, 2016, 2017, he was better than Jacob deGrom. That's a fact. 2018 deGrom, that's a whole different person. That's a crazy guy. But still, even in 2018, he had a 3.03 ERA, a 2.80 FIP, 2.80 xFIP. And you go to 2019, which a lot of people slander a lot. Yeah, he made 32 starts and 197 innings. He had a 4.28 ERA, and that's well above league average, which was 4.56, and that was during the juiciest of juice ball times. And so he had a 1.28 ERA plus and a 4.28 ERA. That's good. He had a 3.60 FIP and a 3.80 expected FIP and a 3.90 SIERA, which is skill interactive ERA. All of those numbers are really good. He came back this year. He was hitting 96 with the Mets. He wasn't throwing his curveball. They didn't want him to, so he didn't have the best outing, but he was hitting 96. It's a really good start for this rotation. I expect him to do a lot more. If they don't break the luxury tax, I kind of think they're going to be a little mediocre this next coming season. But Ohtani, Patrick Sandoval, and Noah Syndergaard is a really, really strong 1-2-3 for me right now. Really good start.
I guess Erod now. I mean, I'm thrilled. This is I think I'm thrilled at what it. This is way too dramatic, but I'm thrilled for what it symbolizes more than anything else. I'm very excited that this now means in my eyes that we're after half a decade of tearing down, like we're finally building up, and that's obviously incredibly exciting. And Erod, just on a tunnel vision kind of a viewpoint of it, I mean, this is a very, very solid deal in my eyes. I mean, this is a guy who, even though whatever, like his highest ERA of his career, but also his lowest FIP of his career this year, has been a consistent like mid threes FIP like every single season, literally every year of his entire career. He's been between like 3.5 and 3.8 FIP. And then, yeah, this year, even with the highest ERA of his career, he has a 3.3 FIP. Like, I am thrilled for this, and now you're taking a dude who has put up those numbers, which are some people freaked out, like, oh, why is everyone freaking out? Like, this is some huge deal. Like, he's not an ace, whatever. We're not paying him to be an ace. You know, this is the AAV he got is not. This is not 25, 30 million AAV. You know what I mean? Like we're paying him. We're paying him less than a QO. I mean, this is such a good deal for the Tigers and an organization that outside of Miggy is paying no one. And I mean, even if we were paying people, like this is such a great deal. What is it? 16, 17 AAV?
Yeah,
15-4.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And you're taking a dude who has pitched in the AL East, which for ballpark's sake and for competitiveness sake is significantly different than now going to the AL Central, which is a joke in its current state. I mean, straight up a laughing stock of a division as far as the teams in it go. And then on top of that, you're putting it in the biggest ballpark in Major League Baseball. And you know, like the home run numbers are going to go down a little bit. I am absolutely thrilled. This was fantastic news to wake up to the day that it happened. I'm so pumped. We're going in now with a rotation of Erod, Mize, Manning, Skubal, Boyd in its current state, and then I mean the front office says that they're probably going to make another starting pitching move at some point. And then again, like you're adding Erod to a really young team that's already up and coming and took huge strides this year. And then in the middle of next season, you're going to add Green and Torkelson to the roster. I mean, it's really, really we're a short stop away for real from me being completely all in on the Tigers next season.
Javier Baez away from being completely all in.
All right, everybody, calm down.
It's a fine deal. Like it's a good deal. I think that this is a good move for the Tigers. Same way I think that the Syndergaard move is a good move for the Angels. I was messing with Kristian and the other Angels fans a bunch about it, but like Syndergaard's a good pitcher. I think you take risks with someone like Syndergaard. Mm-hmm. I think he could come back and be a really, really solid pitcher. He's got awesome stuff. He's I like Syndergaard a lot. I think he's a really good arm. Kristian, you mentioned something about Verlander, comparing that contract to Syndergaard. Do you think that Noah will be a better pitcher next year than JV is?
That's hard to say because, like, historically, Verlander is a much better pitcher, and
sure.
Houston's better at developing pitchers than we are. But, like, I would want to say, yeah, he's a decade younger. He has a decade less innings in his arm, and a part of it is dependent on if we get a good infield shortstop. I mean, we had negative 22 defensive runs saved Jose Iglesias out there last season. They've talked about moving David Fletcher over there, and I can see him putting up like 6 defensive runs saved, but I really wouldn't like that. There's also Brendan Davis in the minor leagues that could come up and supplement that. But I think it's going to be very similar. They're both going to be around like a 360 ERA type of beat. 130 innings is where I would have Syndergaard at max, just because we have a 6-man rotation, and I'm an Angels fan. We get hurt all the damn time, so I expect at least one injury stint of elbow fatigue or shoulder fatigue of some sort, because it's natural with Tommy John guys. But yeah, I think I would if I had a bet on it, if I was a betting man, I would bet on Syndergaard to have a better ERA than Justin Verlander next season.
That's a fair bet. I think age plays a big factor in that as well. I think overall what this market says is people don't really get and maybe this is harsh, people don't really get how the market continues to evolve. Like, people are going to look at 15-4 over the AAV of the Erod contract, and for some reason be like, this is expensive, like $15 million per year for a pitcher, and it's like, that's what pitchers get nowadays.
Yeah.
And look at where the QO is. Like, you're gonna hover around that for a lot of these players.
And
the fact that a guy like Iglesias, even though he's gonna turn it down, gets a QO at 18.4 says a lot about where some of the pitcher market starts to sit. You're willing to take that sort of risk.
How much did Barrios get?
Barrios got 7 for, there was one I failed to mention. Barrios extension was 7 for 131, which is,
that's like
131 divided by 7 is 18.7.
Which that makes, right
there. That's a QO. Like, if you're a decent to above average pitcher, you're gonna hover around the QO. You might take a little less to extend the life of your contract, but if the qualifying offer starts as a benchmark of sorts, and now you have the continually evolving benchmarks, now the Barrios contract becomes a new benchmark for pitchers looking for extensions. A la Lucas Giolito, who's got the similar situation going on. Those types of pitchers, same tier in the market, are going to be sitting, well, this guy got 18.7. Where are you going to put me type thing? Rodriguez, 15.4 is a fantastic deal. And I think that Syndergaard, a 1-year deal, is a high risk, high reward. High risk for a 1-year deal, but it's still low risk, but it's just depends on what you do next. But it's still a fantastic deal that more likely than not, he outplays the $21 million you're paying for him. So it's like, at the end of the day, this is where the market starts to evolve, at least on the pitching side, from where people are like, a good free agent, like just a solid one, should get 15 to 18 million on both sides of the ball. And I think people are still not waking up to that fact. And I think maybe it's going to take some position player contracts to sign some mid-tier guys, not your Carlos Correas, your Corey Seager, stuff like them. Your mid-tier guys who are still really good ball players, and they're going to get that 15 to 18 million range. You're going to think, what in the world? That's where the market is. You're going to have to learn that the game continues to evolve. But
I would have given Erod 20. I said it before we signed him. I would have given Erod 20 AAV in my sleep. I mean, even him and his agent even agree that he was slightly underpaid because there's an opt out after 2. Like if he goes out there and balls out in big ass Comerica against AL Central teams and take his numbers, take big steps forward because of that, he'll opt out after 2 and he'll go and get some AAV in the 20s. I mean, he took 2 less than the QO for a 5-year deal with an opt out after 2. I comfortably, and John Principe, who is a Red Sox fan on this site, I mean, he was talking about going as high as 22, 23 AAV for him. I mean, this is a fantastic deal for Detroit, and we're not going to pay any of the 3. Over half of our rotation is going to be on pre-ARB for the next season and a half, and then on top of that, ARB for the next 3 years after. Like, this makes absolutely a boatload of sense for Detroit and for the market as a whole. I mean, I would even, there are people saying, oh, he got overpaid. I would comfortably say he got underpaid what I was expecting him to get even.
You're willing to take that bet on yourself. So it's kind of like you're saying, like, hey, it's that opt out after 2, then maybe I only make 15 for each of these first 2 years, but I'm going to be 31. I might go back on the market at 31. And you're going to see eventually, when this guys start to sign, what 31-year-olds get on the open market. I mean, what was it? Keuchel was 32 just a few years ago, and he got 18 million. And a guy like Bumgarner signed the exact same time. He got a very similar deal. And these deals have not worked out for either team, but they're still going to be serving as the precedent for what comes next. I'm sure he sees that and it's like, hey, I want to play for a team that's on the up and up. I'll take a little bit less to do so, and if I like it, I'll stay. If not, and I really outplay it, great. I'm out after 2 years. I'm only 31. Let's go sign a 4-year deal somewhere else. I think it would be interesting if more players start to take those Eduardo Rodriguez and even Nick Castellanos type deals where after 2 years they say, hey, I'll take a little less on the front end, but I might be out after 2 years. You might not get all 4 or 5 years of me.
Team that's on the up and up. We are talking about the Tigers, right?
Listen,
Those Phillies fans talking?
I'm pretty worried about the Detroit Tigers in the AL Central. I'm not going to lie to you, Jay.
Why is the Phillies fan speaking to me? I'm sorry you don't know what the up and up is because you're perpetually 500, but some other team.
Whoa.
Hey, you know what?
We're rebuilding.
You know what, Jroy? We'll just give you Craig Kimbrell, and you can have fun with that contract.
Dude, I'm just saying when Correa is wearing the Phillies uniform, you're gonna be like, you're gonna forget all about that lunch that him and Hinch had, okay? And you're gonna be like, wow, what went wrong? Like, what went wrong here?
Dombrowski, baby, I wouldn't put it past him.
What's it like living in your world? What's it like to not have that dream of my team's gonna sign every free agent I want?
I don't know.
What's that dream like?
I don't know, because it all collapses, Then you gotta...
it's just the guy with Bryce Harper on his team, and he just signed Zach Wheeler.
Exactly. Hey, like if we could sign Bryce, we can go out there and sign anyone,
Well, to have
with Dombrowski at the helm, no one's out of reach. I can confirm that.
The Chris Bryant Bryce Harper reunion still seems likely to me for some.
Oh, I think we've got to. I think KB could come to the Phillies for sure. I think that could happen.
I thought Alec Bohm was the third baseman of the future over there.
He's gonna have
the worst qualified season in baseball.
Huh? No way. No way it was that bad.
I swear in like July he had the lowest WAR in like the entire league.
It was in the red a little bit, sure, but like
he was at like a -1 something WAR in like July.
Figured it out.
No, we'll move him to the outfield and he'll figure things out there.
Fair enough.
He needs to. He can't play third base. That's true though. He cannot play third base.
It was not the worst season. He didn't qualify in terms of games played, but -0.2 FWAR would have been top 5. Miguel Cabrera holds that honor.
Damn right, baby.
But I think, actually, the top 2 were first baseman. That's interesting. Anywho.
Positional adjustments. That's the only reason. If you put Miguel Cabrera at shortstop, he would be one of the best players in the league this year.
Okay, now okay, this is a little bit of a different comparison. We're talking about
it's not though.
We're talking about an athlete.
A left-handed athlete playing shortstop. I want you to remember that's what you suggested.
I did. I stand by it.
I'm just as long as you stand by it. That's what I appreciate about you. You stand by it. Let's talk a little bit about the position player side of things, which is far less interesting. I think it's more. I'm not going to say it's more unsure, mostly because the lockout looming. I guess my question comes more so from the standpoint of who do you see signing in the next week and a half? Is there anybody, even in the mid-tier range, where you feel like, hey, I feel like he could take a deal and strike something before? Like, I guess who has the most to lose based on any uncertainty that follows a new CBA? Because guys like Correa and Seager are going to get paid no matter what the CBA says. Mm-hmm. There might be guys who lose a couple million here or there based on what it says. Or just
I think Story will still get paid. I mean,
well, yeah, he's an example, but I'm like, basically, it's up to. I guess the question is, who could you see signing in the next week and a half, if anybody?
Well, Saya Suzuki is being posted tomorrow, and he'll be available for the next 9 days, and then his posting period will freeze after that. But I genuinely do think we see Saya Suzuki sign somewhere within the next 9 days. Mm. He's a special talent. I mean, he debuted same age and same time as Ohtani did. Ohtani wanted to win, so he win. Ohtani wanted to show his talents in the majors, and he took no money to come over here. Saya Suzuki wanted the money. He wanted to build upon himself, and he stayed over there. And now he's coming over here. I can see him signing. They projected him about 4 years, $10 million, which to me seemed a little light compared to like Masahiro Tanaka.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's going to be signing. And then just the 1 year make it deals, like Andrelton Simmons, I could see signing very soon, and maybe Chris Taylor might be the most beneficial to sign within the next 9 days or so.
I think one of the big five shortstop signs before the lockout, and I don't think it's like it won't be Correa. It won't be Story. I don't even think it'll be Seager, but I think one of Baez or Simeon signs before December 1st. I think that their markets are a lot. They are more of market setters for the Correas and Stories than, while they're still not market setters in the terms of like, oh, like these guys are mid-tier free agents by any stretch. But though what those two get paid will determine what the other three get paid. Like there's still a little bit of a gap in there. And I think there are teams out there. The teams that want Baez or Simeon don't want the other three because the other three are going to be more expensive. You know what I mean? Like I think that market is a lot more niche than the other three, whereas the other three could have as many as 15 teams all knocking on the agent's door, kind of a thing. So it would not surprise me if a Marcus Simeon or Javi Baez, maybe not Javi. I don't know. I feel like one of the shortstops will sign before December 1st just to get out in front of it, and then the other four will wait until after, once the market's set and one of the five dominoes drops, and then reevaluate from there.
I'll just ask point blank. Do you think Correa eventually winds up in Detroit?
I'll say no. I'll say no. Obviously I want him to more than anything in the world, but I would say probably not. It's just, for me, it's been so long since we have spent any money that like how can I expect that? You know what I mean? Like how can I possibly expect us to give $300 million to a dude when we haven't given anyone a 2-year deal, period? Before Robbie Grossman last offseason, we haven't given anyone of any position a multi-year contract since I was in high school, and I'm 23. That's absurd. So, I'll say no, but not because I don't want it to happen, or not because I don't think there's a chance, because I do think that there is both of those things, and we're very obviously in the market for them. But if I had to bet like every single penny to my name, which is about like $4, I would say I would probably say no on today.
Maybe that would change after a Scott Bentley lunch with Carlos Correa instead of an AJ Hinch lunch.
That turns into
a breakfast that turns into a lunch.
There you go. Let's get the terminology right.
Like I said before, you're officially in the Manny Machado to the White Sox territory of, well, they called him at Sox Fest, and he came out with his new glove line that was black and silver. You're officially in that territory.
See, but we have a good manager.
You know, at that time, La Russa wasn't the manager. You can't use that one.
So, but it's still true.
You going to call, what's his name good? Rick Renteria a good manager?
I have such a low bar for.
Touche, honestly. That's fair.
I've seen the past 3 managers have been Robin Ventura, Tony La Russa, and Rick Renteria. What is good?
I had the same manager from birth to 19 years old, and then I had Brad Osmus for a little bit there, and that was certainly a ride and a half. And then Joe Madden, we know all about Brad Osmus. But I've actually enjoyed Joe Madden a lot more than I thought I would when we initially hired him. He's been better than what I expected.
Yeah, I haven't really liked Girardi.
Well, he does have the tendency to leave his starters out there.
Yeah.
You can absolutely say that.
Making Nolan Wheeler look so bad, man.
Costing
Nola
him Cy
especially,
Youngs.
man.
Nola,
no-
big time, man.
Nola
Big.
is-
Nola got dragged. I remember.
Bro, he'd leave
occasion
Nola.
watching
It was
games.
insane. He'd leave Nola out there. Like Nola could have 120 pitches and already given up 4 runs. He's like, "You're getting the ninth, dog."
You're
Like,
going.
what on earth?
All his peripherals look really good after the season,
Yeah.
and you would not have guessed it at all. Like he looked like he had a Dallas Keuchel type season. Like it was
Listen.
raw.
Who were you facing? It was in the 9th inning. Aaron Nola was still out there. He had already given up 3 runs.
Exact
He
game
had
I
100
remember.
He had 127 innings pitched, 3 runs, 2 people on. He gives up a walk-off home run. No one's even warming in the bullpen. They were
That was like a
Literally
month
did not
ago,
have
right?
anyone warming
Wasn't that
up.
game like a
Yeah.
month ago?
no one
Yeah, it
warming
was
up.
later in the season. I'm like,
Yes,
what
that
are
was
you
because
doing?
he had a shutout going into the 9th, I think, or something. Like I don't remember what it was, but he was dealing, and then we lost the game somehow. Like, oh, I remember that.
You know
Joe
what?
Girard.
You know what the solution to this is, right?
What?
Trade for Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah.
That's how I'm introducing the final section as we start to wrap up here.
Riding Hector Neris.
We'll talk about we talked about the free agents a bit, and hopefully we see a little bit more action before the lockout, because we're all going to be dying for baseball for a little bit. But on the trade side, I guess, what's your team's biggest need that you feel can or should be addressed via trade? And if you have names, where should it come from? And Jroy, I already gave you the answer, Jroy. It's Craig Kimbrell from the White Sox. You're welcome.
Let me look up the old.
I'll just get mine out of the way because I don't think we're in the market to trade anybody.
Mhm.
Like we are a buying team that the only thing we have to offer is young prospects or like first year players who are supposed to be part of the plan for next season.
Mhm.
Like literally 2022, not even like 2 or 3 years down the road. So like we made our nice little trade. We got Tucker Barnhart, and like that's awesome, and I love the deal. Super pumped about it, but I can't imagine a world where we are going to be trading anyone. This team outside of Miggy is like our longest tenured Tiger. Got here in like 2018 outside of Miggy, so like we have no veterans to trade, and we're not in the market trading the prospects. So I don't expect us to make any more moves.
For the Angels, whenever the Gary Sanchez resurgence bandwagon debacle with Matt Olson was going on Twitter, I love to make fun of him. He's a friend of mine.
It got insane when it crossed my timeline. So.
Yeah, it was rapid. I made a spoof tweet of it about Taylor Walls of Tampa Bay. He's blocked by Wander Franco, Brandon Lau, and he's a damn good defensive shortstop. I genuinely think that he could be in the interest of Anaheim. I made quite a few tweets about him already. I really like him. And then going to the other Miami team, the Angels and the Marlins had a trade this deadline for Brandon Marsh and Max Meyer, and the Angels are the ones that backed out of it last second. I think they're gonna revamp those trade talks.
Interesting.
If not for Max Meyer, I can absolutely see us being very interested in one of Pablo Lopez or Sandy Alcantara. Alcantara. I see them being heavily interested in one of those two pitchers.
And you'd be good with giving up Marsh?
Yeah, I flip-flop back and forth to Joe Adell and Brandon Marsh. I love both of them, and I think both of them are going to prosper. Marsh's defensive ceiling probably like gives him a lower or a higher floor than Adell, but I think Adell's bat is better. But I would probably be okay with Brandon Marsh and someone else to go for Pablo Lopez, who's controlled for the next 3 years, and same with Sandy.
Yeah, that control game. It's such a big piece that when fans put together mock trades, just is completely thrown out the window by most fans. Like, 3 years of control, even 2 years of control is a lot for some of these guys. Like getting 2 years of value of a certain player is a lot, especially when you didn't sign or develop that player.
Trading, I mean, like at the deadline every year, trading someone who has a year and a half of control versus half a year of control means like literally the difference between top 100 prospects and not top 100 prospects coming back your way. Like it is dramatically different.
Yep.
This deadline had me in just shambles. Really, there were so many high tier prospects being traded for people on half a year. The Angels decided not to trade Raisel Iglesias or Alex Cobb, and I was upset and happy about that, about them not trading them. But then you look back at it, and either of those two, they could have gotten such good players for the next couple of years, and it's kind of upsetting. Because Raisel Iglesias, I can easily see going to Philadelphia, sadly, and he was damn good.
Yeah. Jroy, you got any fun trades you want to explore over there? You looking up every team's best players?
I thought about Iglesias coming to the Phillies. That's something that I would be very for. He was pretty good last year for the Angels, and I
they
think
gotta sign him first.
Oh,
what?
so
Yeah. Okay, and then Kimbrel trade kind of. I didn't realize Kimbrel struck out 43% of hitters last year. I did not realize that. I think that so much of like what happens for the Phillies is like what happens with Didi. I don't know what the plan is there. I think we kind of need to just like get rid of him because he was not good last year, and he's just not a great defensive player. So I don't know. I would like to see them get a little bit more depth in the bullpen, just because the bullpen was historically bad 2 years ago, was not very good this last year. I don't really know any specific names. I'm not really sure what's happening. I think right now the biggest thing is try to go out and get a big name shortstop, whether it's Correa, whether it's Story, maybe try to sign Chris Bryant. If they did any of those things, I'd be happy.
Interesting that you view shortstop more. I guess not really that you view shortstop as a bigger need, but
I do. I think so.
Yeah, I guess it's not super interesting because then I thought I'm like, oh well, both Gregorius and Segura were just not what you're looking for.
Didi just doesn't need to be out there.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
Well, in April he does.
Oh, yeah, we could throw him out there for 1 month and.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm curious to see. I really am curious to see what happens over the next 9 days, and then the 2 months probably of nothing, and then the absolute panic that's going to happen come mid-February, where everyone's going to sign, and it's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, we'll sign someone big. My prediction is Story. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think we'll get Correa. That might be. I don't know. We could. We'll see.
Story to Philadelphia makes a lot more sense than Story to Texas, like Ken Rosenthal has been pushing for the last 4 seasons.
Texas is an odd
I think
place
Story to Philly
right
makes
now.
a ton of sense.
Yeah,
I agree.
Texas has like no reason to try to go for it at all right now, and every single year, Ken Rosenthal, John Heyman, John Morosi, they're pushing these guys to like narratives for signing Rendon or any of these top players, and it doesn't make any sense to me. They were 15 games worse than the Angels last season, and we had no one on the team healthy. 15 games worse from the 4th place team. They're not close to competing at all.
Yeah, that's a bad team. They're bad.
Bad.
Like as someone who's seen a lot of bad baseball, the Rangers are bad. The Rangers are bad. I really do like Story to Philly though. My biggest one has been Baez to Miami. That's like the one I've been riding, like hanging my hat on since the beginning of free agency. I think that makes a ton of sense for both sides.
I like that move.
I'm curious to see what I'm really curious to see what Correa ends up getting. I'm just sitting here waiting for the inevitable Correa to Detroit and just whatever happens after that and blocking Scott Bentley and all that fun stuff. And
how scared are you on a scale of 1 to 10 for genuinely for the Tigers next season if they sign one of the shortstops, and like if our only move the rest of the season is signing one of the 5 shortstops, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how scared are you for them next season from an outsider's perspective?
Depending on which shortstop they get, and depending on the growth from Manning my Skubal, I'm willing to go as high as like a 7 or an 8.
Sure.
Like, because I could see,
that's reasonable.
and it also really depends on what the White Sox decide to add to this team. Is it going to be, dumping Kimbrel's salary to some team and then signing a mid-tier second baseman and running it back in right field with what they've got? If that's the case, that's not going to cut it. Truthfully, I don't think that's enough to fill some of those holes. I think I think it can get as high as like a 7 or an 8, just depending on how the rest of the offseason goes, because
for sure
there's a ton of variance between signing Correa and signing Baez.
For sure.
And
for sure.
So it's like, in my opinion, though, like I said, it's that growth piece of Manning my Skubal that, I mean, you saw it in flashes this year. There's gonna be some talent there for a very long time.
Yeah,
Tigers did it right. So,
well, they did it right from signing AJ Hinch to now. They've done everything.
In
right.
theory, they've put all the pieces in place to do it right.
Yeah, yeah, no, they're in a prime opportunity to take a huge leap if they decide they want to pay money. I've been buying a lot of Little Caesars pizza to help the cause. I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part of helping the Illich family by buying a lot of pizza lately. So that's my contribution.
So if they add Correa, like I can see them winning 85 games easily next season, especially with how weak your guys' division is. And what are the White Sox going to do to supplement the loss of Carlos Rodon? Is Kopech just taking that over like straight up, or?
I don't think people are talking enough about that, because even if Kopech takes over Rodon's innings, that's still only let's just say his max is like 140 for the season. If you factor in you want him to pitch in the playoffs as well, you're probably not going to give him more than 120 at the high end in the regular season, probably. If you're saying 140, 150 for the season is his max. That's a lot of innings that are just not being accounted for, and a lot of innings that are also being accounted for by Dallas Keuchel. Now, in the AL Central, does it matter as much to get top of the division? I don't know. It depends on a lot of what the Tigers do. And the Indians or the Guardians always give, I'm going to make that mistake 75,000 times. The Guardians do enough to give the White Sox fits in the past. So that's something you need to keep in perspective. So it's about, there are bodies there, sure, but the numbers don't line up. I think they need to at least sign someone in the back end of the bullpen to kind of shore things, or not the bullpen, the rotation, kind of shore things up because of the loss to the bullpen from Kopech moving to the rotation. But it's a valid comment that I think people are like, oh, we just got Kopech. I was like, no, that's not that simple.
Yeah, it's really not that simple. I mean, Rodon only had 132 innings this season, which is kind of a shocker to me. I thought he had more, but it was also 132 innings of a 2.37 ERA, a 2.60 FIP, and a 3.17 expected FIP. Those are insane numbers, and as much as talented as Kopech is, he's not going to get a.
He's not running that out for the first time being a starter since 2018.
Exactly.
That's too high of expectations, and again, it comes down to. It becomes a numbers game of everyone's got to perform like they did last year, which for Lynn and Giolito is probably expected. Cease is still a bit of a wild card until he can do it 2 years in a row. Kopech pitched great out of the bullpen. That's all we've got. Keichel's going to pitch innings, and that's really about
awesome.
Do you see Garrett Crochet getting innings as a starter this season? Or is he going to be in the bullpen?
By default, probably. I think it's going to be a Kopech-ish situation where they're going to do 2 or 3 inning stints for a little bit. I'd prefer they just send him down and get him stretched out. Honestly, like I'd rather him be prepared to be a starter and then have to shorten up if necessary. But if they're committed to the Kopech type plan for him, I think that kind of helps the bullpen a little bit. But we'll see. It's a weird enough division to where, to Scott's original question, like, yeah, it's weird enough to where anything can happen. Like I'm pretty much not worried about Kansas City right now.
No,
I'm really not worried about Minnesota right now. Just because
Minnesota. Yeah, go ahead.
I think they're going to look at this and be like, we should probably at least retool versus trying to go for it with what we've currently got. At least not a full rebuild, but take a year or so off and try and complete some things around the diamond. But that leaves the Guardians, the Tigers, and the White Sox, and I think that's enough to make it interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't discount the Twins. I mean, this is a team, they won 100 games in 19. They were still really good in 2020. Everyone was bad in 2021 for them. Like, I don't expect Donaldson to be that bad. A lot of them is, if they trade Byron Buxton, I'm not viewing them as a problem in the slightest for anyone. But if they don't trade Byron Buxton, they could at least be spoilers, like heavy spoilers. Because that's still a team that can bang on some pitching staffs easily.
I think that's a team that you don't kind of like the Guardians for the White Sox, the Twins just in general is a team you would not want to come to town, most likely. Now, if they trade Buxton, it kind of already says what they're planning to do with their next couple seasons. It's push it down the road a little bit, call it a day. But still, that's enough. There's enough guys in that lineup to make you like, these guys coming to town. Like, it's not a cakewalk, basically.
So.
Yeah, I think the Central will be I don't think the Central will reach the lows of like what year was that? 2018 or 19 when we had like almost 300 lost teams. Like I don't think the bottom will be as low as it's been in the past. I just don't think there will be like a ton of teams over 500 either. I think you're going to be looking at a division full of like 75 to 85 win teams, and it's just going to be a meh. You know what I mean? Like I don't think there's going to be that. I don't think any of the teams in there are set for next year to be like a 100 to 105 loss team. But I mean, there's like one that's guaranteed to even go 500. So
I think. If you win 85 to 90, probably more so on the towards the 90 part, you're probably fine.
Yeah,
like, it's not going to take much to win a division. Yeah. So absolutely. As we wrap up here, and if you've tuned in the entire time, we appreciate you listening. Our final thoughts, and Jroy's mentioned this, so I know he's pretty passionate about this, is kind of circling back to and making it a full circle on our discussion here. Any of your voting. A conversation topic that's come up, and I want to get you guys' thoughts real quick as we kind of close it all out. A thought has been that because of some of the voting we've seen, Salvi Perez getting a second place vote for AL MVP, or some of the hometown guys starting to just give maybe a 9th or a 10th place vote to a team or to the team that they cover, doesn't really change the race, but puts a name on it, and for all intents and purposes probably affects in terms of arbitration how they get paid. Would you be for or against the idea that AL beat writers and members of the Baseball Writers Association vote for the NL awards and NL writers vote for the AL awards? Jroy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I definitely think that should happen. I think that if you think about it, these beat writers, these reporters, like they're not just fans, like they know these guys on a personal level. These players are part of their livelihood. It's easy to just like be more than just like biased, but just be like, hey, like I know Bryce Harper, like I like the guy, like I'm gonna vote for. I just think it would simplify things so much if NL beat writers were only allowed to vote for AL people and vice versa. I think we would see a lot more honest voting. I think we wouldn't have four Giants writers giving Brandon Crawford a first place vote. we wouldn't have Jim Salisbury giving Juan Soto a 7th place vote, which I thought was so funny. I love that so much. Like, this guy was like, you know what? I'm winning this award for Bryce Harper if it's the last thing I do. I love that. I love that so much. The entire Phillies organization throughout this whole like award season have been so good. They were pushing out so much pro Zach Wheeler, pro Bryce Harper stuff, and it was so refreshing to see. I loved it. I think Salisbury giving a 7th place vote to Soto is just so comical, just so funny. But like, I mean, come on, like we don't need that to happen. Like, let's try to have some integrity in these awards and these votings, and because we want these awards to mean something. I do. I certainly want them to mean something, and so yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like pretty much entirely with that. It's egregious that someone could vote Juan Soto second and have no real justification for it. Same with the 2 Giants writers and then 2 other people. I think both are Padres writers. They voted for Brandon Crawford, and that was just mind-boggling. I mean, among all NL players, he led in 0 stats. 0. Among all Giants players with 400 plate appearances, he led in slugging percentage and in F4 by 0.1. Buster Posey was a better Giant than he was, more deserving Giant. And the reasonings they gave was, oh, he was the best player on the best team. He deserves to be MVP. And it's just such a flawed, asinine way of thinking that needs to go. And a part of that would be by having AL cover the NL voting and vice versa.
Yeah, all it took for me was Crawford getting whatever 3 or 4 first place votes for me to be on board with that, and it just, I mean, it makes sense. Like looking back on even past MVP races, like just giving so much power to a team that you get a press box suite for, like in vote. You know what I mean? Like these are dudes who have been at their respective stadiums for the teams they write for all year and get press boxes, and like Jroy said, know these dudes and are in the clubhouse every day and are going to dinner with these dudes. Like it's wild to me that it's even taken this long for that to be like brought up as a possible solution. I mean, it's crazy to me that this hasn't been like talked about, you know, and you know, we've had plenty of debates in the past, but seriously considered before this. It makes all the sense in the world, and yeah, all it took for me was Crawford getting 4 first place votes for me to be like, all right, I'm bought it. That can't happen, man. Like with all due respect, yeah.
For me, it's like what raised it for me a couple years ago was James Fagan, who's a really phenomenal beat writer for the White Sox, covers at The Athletic. Phenomenal beat writer. Through Yohan Moncada, 10th place vote, I think it was 2019, where he had a great year. Like, it was a phenomenal season. There were articles written about the fact that a hometown guy gave Moncada a 10th place vote there. And it's like, all right, is it maybe warranted? Probably not. But at the end of the day, is it worth it? But now you're seeing more. Is it worth the discussion? Basically. But now you're seeing more and more people doing it. And now you're seeing it go as high as Crawford getting first place vote, Salvi Perez getting a 2nd place vote over Vlad. It's like those sorts of things. Now it's becoming a little bit more than just a 10th place vote here and there, where it doesn't really matter too much. It's now becoming more like a 2nd place vote or 4 first place votes. It's clear, and it's no fault of the writers. Like, it's like Jroy said, it's their livelihood. They get attached to these guys. It's just a clear example of observer bias, where you've seen something so much, you tend to think it's better.
Yeah, his explanation was one of the Giants writers, I should say, one of their explanations for voting Crawford was the most on-brand thing you would ever see for a beat writer that just voted for Brandon Crawford for MVP. He was like, no player meant more in the clubhouse. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's like, that I could have, you could have just read me that quote. I'd be like, all right, one of the Giants writers definitely just voted Brandon Crawford for first place for MVP. I wouldn't even need to see the voting. Like that, it just makes sense. And again, like you said, Laz, like it's no direct fault to the writers to have that. But like obviously this dude's been in the clubhouse every day. He sees Brandon Crawford being a leader and then leading the team in F4. And best player, best team, and clubhouse leader. There you go. There it is. So like that's gonna happen. And I think switching leagues, you're still giving everyone a voice. You're not taking away their votes or anything. You're literally just changing who they vote for. And I think that's a very good way to fix the problem.
It's requiring a little bit more objectivity.
Right.
And you can still get the quotes. Yeah, you can still get the quotes about how important guys are to the clubhouse. Word obviously carries. You read each other's work. Like, that's not going to change, but it takes a little bit of a step back from it. But I think the biggest thing here, too, that I don't think we mentioned, AL MVP, NL MVP, none of the top three were on teams that made the playoffs. And I think that's important. Because it's starting to show that shift, which becomes the next conversation of, can we see that same shift in who's actually giving the votes?
Which, by the way, just really quickly, can we talk about the as Jroy would say, the tomfoolery of somebody saying that Vlad deserved MVP because he was on a better team. You're talking about a team that also missed the playoffs. That is
they were in it a little bit longer.
The most asinine. Already, it's ridiculous that people are like, oh, like this dude was a slightly worse player, but he was on a team that made it to the ALCS or whatever, so he deserved. Like that's already a stupid ass argument. Now we're starting to do it with two teams that missed the postseason. Now it's getting
Which
even
one
worse.
Lasted longer?
We're doing it on a team that finished fourth.
Yeah, we were both fourth place teams.
Yeah. All right. What are we talking about? What are we doing? Ridiculous.
They had the runner-up MVP, the third place MVP, and the Cy Young, and they missed the playoffs. But Ohtani's the one at fault because he couldn't lead the fucking Angels without Mike Trout or Anthony
with their
Rendon.
whole team on the IL.
There were people on Twitter saying that they were not going to vote for Bryce for MVP because of the 3-game series against the Braves with a week left in the season that kind of decided the NL East race. Like there are people that are like, he struck out 6 times in this series when it mattered most. He melted. Like, I'm not voting for this guy. I was like, dude, did you not watch the first 138 games he played? Like,
One last comment I want to make about the voters thing with Andrew Baggerly of San Francisco. Calling Brandon Crawford the clubhouse leader is just so hysterical to me because A, Buster Posey existed, and B, the entire second half of that damn season, every single person was calling Brandon Belt the captain. Like that is.
He had the C taped on his jersey.
Yes, Brandon Belt was the leader, the clubhouse leader, not Brandon Crawford. So the entire argument, like every step of it, had made no sense to me. No reasoning, no justification was close to okay.
I think you're probably never going to see those go away, but at the same time, it's still nice to see the shift in the logic for some of the voting. I think that is incredibly important. But I didn't know we were going to go this long, but honestly, we had a lot to talk about. So for all of you who tuned in, first of all, thank you once again. Obviously, during the off season, there's not as much content, but there's always plenty on Diamond Digest. We've been doing our season in review / off-season outlooks. Our writers are very busy with a lot of good stuff, so please make sure you tune in. Diamond-digest.com is the website. @Diamond_Digest is the Twitter handle, where Marcus Stroman seems to love some of the tweets we've been putting out recently. And Diamond.Digest is the Instagram handle. Make sure to check us out everywhere because we will be continuing to bring you as much content as we can, especially in these coming months where it'll be very difficult to find that content. But for Scott Bentley, who has departed us, if you're watching live.
He said his Wi-Fi went out.
Oh, there we go. But for Scott Bentley, Jroy, Jonathan Roy, and Kristian Lloyd, this is Jordan Lazowski signing off. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your week, and we'll talk to you when we talk to you. Hopefully we got some baseball to talk about soon. So take care.
Christmas special of TWIB.
We'll see what we get.
Maybe.
Take care, everyone.